Good evening. Welcome back to this Music Minute at Epiphany Lutheran Church in Richmond, Virginia. I'm Kevin Varga, the director of music here. And today we're going to look at the hymns for tomorrow. We're going to start with actually our hymn of the day tomorrow, which is Let Us Talents and Tongues Employ. And this is actually older than you might think. The text and tune writers actually lived on the same street in, now you're thinking somewhere Caribbean, right? Because it sounds like Jamaica and it's a Jamaican folk tune. But they were actually in Geneva, Switzerland. And the tune was adapted from a Jamaican folk tune. And the text writer said that he was going to write a celebratory hymn for the Eucharist. And so he called this actually Communion Calypso. And in the tune, in turn, the hymn was used in the World Council of Churches meeting in 1975 for the first time, I think. And then again in 1983 in Vancouver. So it has some worldly origins and really goes back a lot longer than we might think. It was, of course, in With One Voice for us. It's in our new hymnal as well. And so I hope you enjoy this little Communion Calypso. How could you not smile after that, right? And some of our youth actually know some hand motions that go along with that when they're at synod events they might do. So we're going to turn now to Praise the One Who Breaks the Darkness. And I bet you really do know this, even though you think from the title you may not. But this was published in the Lutheran Journal in Minneapolis in 1986. And this writer was doing a Bible study on the life and ministry of Christ. And he writes, I'm going to read this to you, it is astounding as how much Jesus did in such a brief earthly ministry, yet more astounding is how God's blessing and saving acts continue on through Christ. How can we do other than to praise this light in the darkness? End quote. So this is set to an old tune called Nettleton. And I think you'll probably recognize it. It has many other hymns that use this tune. It's from 1813, and you'll probably recognize the rhythmic repeated patterns as we go through this. So this is a partita, so we'll give you a little quiz. If you remember from a couple of weeks ago, we talked about what a partita is. So this actually has 4 different parts. This one has an invocation, hymn, reflection, and dance. right. And last but not least, today we will have our gathering hymn tomorrow, which is All Who Hunger Gather Gladly. And so again, the words may, I don't know what that is, but you probably do. The text was actually almost written on the beach. So its writer had been to the Hymn Society meeting back in 1990, and she left humming this tune to Holy Manna. So Holy Manna, of course, is a tune that is used for several hymns, and it was coming mainly from Southern Harmony in 1835. Columbian Harmony actually shows some roots that are going back about 10 more years to 1825 as to where this came from. So very old tune and very common. And the text actually that she came up with while walking on the beach was combining before and after contrasts connected to Holy Communion. So for instance, we have from wilderness and wandering to truth and being fed, and from restlessness and roaming to joy and feast, and from loneliness and longing to peace and God's leading us. So as you hear this tune, this is a pretty short version. It's a toccata, and if you remember, that's sort of a showy, flashy kind of fun piece on things. This one's pretty short as toccatas go, but you'll recognize, I'm sure, the tune, and hope you enjoy. So I bet you recognize that. I hope you recognize it maybe in there. So thank you for joining me this evening on this hot Saturday evening. And we'll see you tomorrow at 10:30 on Facebook and YouTube channels. And we will be in person at 10 a.m. One service only here at Epiphany. And you can sign up online for that if you haven't done so already. Thanks again for coming.